a little past 6 p.m., I'll go ahead and call the Winnebago County Board of Supervisors to order for October 19th, 2021. The county clerk has confirmed the roll, and we do have a quorum this evening. So the first items on the agenda are the Pledge of Allegiance, followed by the invocation by Supervisor Powers. If you could please all stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And now the invocation by Supervisor Powers.
Great Creator, lover of all humankind, bless the work of the Winnebago County Board of Supervisors. Move every human heart, and especially the hearts of the people of Winnebago County and the state of Wisconsin, that barriers which divide us may crumble, suspicions disappear, and hatreds cease. That our divisions being healed, may we live in justice and peace. Especially our county sheriff's department. Keep them safe, humane, and compassionate. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Supervisor Powers. Next item on the agenda is a motion to adopt this evening's agenda. For that, I'll call on Supervisor Albrecht.
This evening's agenda.
There's a motion and a second to adopt this evening's agenda. Any discussion? Seeing none, we'll do a voice vote. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed say nay. That motion carries. Moving on down to the next item, and that's the time during each meeting in which there's an opportunity for the public to speak for any item on the agenda this evening or any item under county jurisdiction. Is there anyone from the public who wishes to speak this evening? If so, please go ahead, step to the mic, and if you could state your name and address for the record, please, and if we could keep our comments to 3 minutes or less. Please go ahead, sir, if you could state your name and address for the record, please.
Sid Opperman, 4608 County Road E, Oshkosh, Wisconsin.
Thank you.
Since I'd like to first say that I don't know what your guys' rules are, as if you're represented in the county and then you show up in a different company kind of a car. I'm thinking that if you represent us as Winnebago County, that you should either use a Winnebago County vehicle and not use a vehicle that you have your own personal business. And I know you went through all this stuff to not have that business in the person's name. So on that note, I just don't think that's right to have free advertising when you're representing Winnebago County as people. The other thing is that I got a problem with this, not a problem with the health care that you guys voted on last week or last month. Problem I got is that you guys are gonna pass that cost on to probably the Winnebago County employees, and I don't think that's right. I think that you guys are trying to consolidate everything so you have more control over the Winnebago County employees themselves as far as drug testing, you know, not outsourcing that stuff. I get that point. It probably saves a lot of money that way, but I don't think you guys should put that cost onto the county employees, because you guys are having problems right now trying to keep your county employees because they're leaving. And as I read through the budget, I go, you know, some departments are playing a shell game, a big shell game. You know, you're not getting rid of people, you're not hiring people. What you're doing is you're changing job titles on people that already are working there, that are already under workload. And by changing their job titles and taking that job away, you know, now you're giving that work to somebody else. And the one that comes to mind is the ground supervisor over at facilities. You know, they're going to get rid of that position and make him some kind of a facility supervisor like the other guys. But once you guys get rid of that, you know, he's going to get, like, I think it's a $4,000 raise, you know, and you're not going to have the ground supervisor anymore because them other people are gonna have to pick up the cover over the grounds. You know, and the county buildings, you know, you guys can't get people to work. Years ago, with the cleaning crew worked at night. You know how hard it is to work around people during the day when there's meetings or courtroom going on? You know, you guys need to start looking at that stuff, going back to the way it used to be, you know. The maintenance stuff over at the highway shop, some of the stuff over there, you know, trucks are breaking down. I don't know if they got a night mechanic, but when I first started, there was a full-time night mechanic and there was a part-time night mechanic. You know, during the day, the highway shop needs them trucks. You know, they can't be running the truck in there and then doing a quick fix on it. All the services, all that stuff was all done at night. You know, and then you got county departments that are outsourcing maintenance on stuff or outsourcing cleaning on offices. You know, years ago, the night watchman did the cleaning at the highway shop. Now I think they outsource it. Facilities ain't doing it, I don't think. And how can you operate that? Winnebago County has got everything you guys need to make this county work without spending or outsourcing everything. I understand that sometimes you got a big project, maybe the people don't understand what needs to be fixed. But you guys, as Winnebago County, we have everything. Everything you need of. We got mechanics, we got custodians, we got grounds people, we got parks people, you know. And then when you guys voted with the dog park, you know, last week, you know, and I was thinking about this for like last month, you know, last month you guys voted on naming that dog park. You know, the sheriff's department, they got a room named after Rick Meyer. He gave his life for Winnebago County. Malhorn and Newmeyer out on 41, they got killed. They gave their life. They got a nice memorial over there at the highway shop for them guys, but it ain't at a park. Nobody knows about it. You know, you guys should be, you know, have something in the parks for, even name the shelters after these guys if you're gonna name after that. They gave their life for this county. You know, and the thing with the Mark Newmeyer and Dan Melhorn, the thing about that is that really bugs me the most is that year I transferred from highway to facilities, and Dan Melhorn took my route. You know, that could have been me on that highway, but it was Dan and Mark Newmeyer. And them guys all had over 20 years with Winnebago County. You know, I figure you guys could at least designate a area for the Winnebago County fallen heroes, you know. You know, the nice shadow box out there at the sheriff's department is nice, the Rick Meyer room. But, you know, there ain't a lot of traffic there, and people don't know, unless you worked here at that time, you don't know them people. The people in the county don't know them, and they should know that these people actually gave their lives for a job they loved. So, thank you for letting me speak, and sorry for being a nuisance the last few months, but
Thank you, and thank you for your comments this evening. Is there anyone else from the public who wishes to speak this evening? So first, we'll see if there's anyone from the public in person, and then we'll also check on Zoom afterwards. Is there anyone in person from the public who wishes to speak this evening? I'll ask one more time. Is there anyone else from the public who wishes to speak? Okay, we'll go ahead and move to Zoom. Is there anyone from the public on Zoom this evening who wishes to speak? If so, go ahead and raise your Zoom hand, and we'll call on you in succession. Is there anyone from the public on Zoom who wishes to speak this evening? Give them a little opportunity just in case. Okay, seeing none, we'll go ahead and close that portion of the agenda. we'll move on to the next item, and that's correspondence. For that, I'll call on Clerk Ertmer.
Thank you, Chairman Ramos. Tonight, we have a petition for zoning amendment from April Tony in the town of Amro, requesting a zoning change from A2 R1 to all A2 for agriculture and farming. This is referred to the Planning and Zoning Committee. We have a resolution from Door County requesting elimination of Badger Care eligibility cliff. This will be forwarded to the Legislative Committee. And then we did have a notice of claim from Wisconsin Public Service, but since we put out the agenda, that has been settled, so that's being withdrawn. And then at your desks, we got a supply of hand sanitizer from one of the county's vendors, and so we had an overabundance of it, so everybody gets a bottle to take home. So, thank you.
Very good. Thank you, Clerk Ertmer. Moving on to the next item, that's reports from committees, commissions, and boards. Any reports from any committees, commissions, and boards from any county board supervisors? I see one. I'll call on Supervisor Defferting. Please go ahead, Supervisor Defferting.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The Wisconsin Counties Association's Judicial and Public Safety Steering Committee met in Stevens Point last Thursday, and we discussed, one of the topics was evidence-based practices for prisoner reentry, and looking at specifically prisoner reentry for Brown County, and some of the stuff that they have been implementing over the last 5 to 10 years. Specifically in regards to families and incarceration, child support, social welfare programs, mental health courts, and resources for those that are re-entering the community. What housing, jobs, and transportation, focusing on those 3 key factors and their results therein. And they've been working on improving that department quite a bit. Brown County certainly does have a high incarceration rate, so it was a very educational presentation. So that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Defferting. Are there any other reports from any committees, commissions, and boards? Please, very good. Please go ahead, Supervisor Finch. And if we could please work to open up the mic.
Including the public, that the county dog park on the northern end of the county has opened. It'll have its grand opening next April or May, but the park is open now for people to utilize the dog park. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Finch. Next, I'll call on Supervisor Ellis, followed by Supervisor Schneider. Please go ahead, Supervisor Ellis.
Thank you, Chairman. Just want to let you know this newsletter, Parkview Health Center's newsletter, the lady that's been doing it is retiring. She's been doing it for many years. This newsletter that you get, it's always been pretty informational in it, what happens at Parkview. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Ellis. Next, we'll call on Supervisor Schneider. If we could please open up the mic for Supervisor Schneider.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I want to report that at my NACO Veterans meeting last Thursday, it was reported that the phone calls that you guys have been making to our representatives and every one of my committee in Washington have been making are yielding some good fruit. The CVSO Act may get a hearing this week, as a matter of fact, in the House. And hopefully that still comes to fruition. Also, in and around Veterans Day, I apologize, we are going to have a massive outreach with regard to the CVSO Act. And I will keep you guys all in the loop, and anything I get from Washington, I'll pass along. So I just want to appreciate every call that you guys have made, if you've made them. Again, as I said, I challenge my entire committee to do the same, and they are yielding fruit. So thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Schneider. Are there any other reports from any committees, commissions, and boards? Seeing none, we'll move on to the next item, and that's the approval of the September 14th and September 21st, 2021 meeting minutes. Is there a motion? There's a motion and a second to approve the minutes from September 14th and 21st. Open it up. Any discussions, changes in regards to the minutes? Anyone, either County Board Supervisor in person or on Zoom, go ahead and raise your Zoom hand. Seeing none, we did have a motion and a second. We'll do a voice vote. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed, say nay. That motion carries. Moving on down to the next item, and that's County Executive's report. Executive Demo, and that'll be followed by County Executive's appointments.
All right, thank you. Today I'm going to do my report on standardized memo, something that some of you have heard from. I just want to let you guys understand the thought process behind why I'm asking my department heads to follow this. It's really meant to streamline the information for you. It's one of the best practices across administrator-led counties to help staff the supervisors and committees better by delivering clear and concise information. They're going to be a high-level overview of what an item, of why an item has come forward and what actions has been taken through the committees and correlating department head approval. It's designed to keep all supervisors and citizens informed of what we're working on as a county. It's going to keep a record of the item as it journeys through the committee, so you'll be able to see the action that's been taken by committees, just to really make sure we're communicating that a little better. It gives a requested action previously hopefully vetted by Corporation Counsel, so that we know the motions to put forth when we're trying to get things accomplished. Chairs of committees are still and will always maintain full control of the agendas. It's not about taking any power away from chairs. It's really about making sure that our information, as we share it through the county, is uniform. So no matter what committee you sit on, whether you sit on a committee at all, you can understand that the information's coming for you, and as well as the general public as well. So there's no confusion. And it's really going to help us to be unified as departments on our side to help implement your policy decisions. So when we have something that goes across multiple departments on our end, we are meeting in separate groups ourselves outside of this, so that we can look at your policies and figure out the best way forward, the best action forward, so that we can work together as a county to get your goals accomplished. And that is the report I wanted to give you on the standardized memos, just so that you guys will understand maybe some of the questions or the things the department heads of your committees have been asking. So it really is just to make sure that we're transparent as a government, that we understand what we're dealing with, and that everyday citizens can follow along with some of the great work that you do. All right. Moving on.
We have one question, I think.
Yeah, sure.
Vice Chairman Egan?
Thank you. My question is Mr. Damo, does that mean like our heads of departments are not going to be able to disclose everything without passing it by you first, or is it still going to be just a regular meeting, or what are you really saying, that it has to go through you before it can go through the committee? I don't really understand what you're saying there.
No, what I'm saying is we just want to organize so that before it even comes to you, we make sure that we can start working on an HR and Corporation Counsel and Finance. And again, as chairmen of the committee, you guys can bring whatever you want forward at any time that you want. All we're trying to do is standardize it, make it easier so that we can help you, so that we can staff you at your committee. So when you bring it up to your committee, we can already have answers. When you're looking at something in facilities, for example, if something in your committee has something to do with facilities, you'll see that we've already talked to Mike Elder about this, and that it already has that department head's approval. Some of the things have to come through committee, and some of the issues that have been brought up by supervisors were simple fixes that we could just do. Sometimes all we need to know is that there's an issue out there, and sometimes we can just fix those things. So it has nothing to do with us controlling the information. It has to do with us being able to support the information, so that you have all the things that you need to discuss at the committee, so that we can make sure that if there's a department head around there surrounding something that you want to do, we can make sure that they're at those committee meetings. I guess, does that make sense?
Yes, somewhat, but you're saying that the department heads will still be open, like when we come to a meeting or whatever, if they want to give us some information, they don't have to worry about talking over with you or whoever first before anything can be elaborated on.
Well, I think as the county executive for departments that work under me, I think it'd be good for them to let me know what's coming, so that we can coordinate and collaborate on that. It does not mean that they're not available for you. It doesn't mean that you can't call them directly. I just want to make sure that we're all on the same page so that we can work together as a county.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions?
Move on to the county executive appointments.
All right. Dear members of the County Board of Supervisors, below are my appointments to fill some vacancies we have for boards and commissions. Supervisor Andy Buck, I am appointing to the Industrial Development Board. Supervisor Buck is appointed for a board vacancy. The term will expire April 30th of 2022.
There's a motion. Is there a second for the appointment on the Industrial Development Board? There is a second. So there's a motion and a second to approve the appointment to the Industrial Development Board of Supervisor Buck. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed say nay.
Aye.
With one nay vote, that vote carries. Please proceed.
All right, Elizabeth Jones of Neenah to the ADRC Board. Ms. Jones is reappointed to her second three-year term to represent citizens with developmentally disabled citizens. Her term expires August 31st of 2024.
There's a motion and a second to approve to the ADRC Commission, Elizabeth Jones. We'll open it up for any discussion. Seeing none, we'll once again do a voice vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. That motion carries. Please proceed.
All right, Rob Patterson of Oshkosh to the ADRC Board. Mr. Patterson is reappointed to a second three-year term to represent citizens that are physically disabled through Winnebago County. The term expires August 31st of 2024.
There's a motion and a second to approve Rob Patterson to the ADRC Commission. We'll open it up for any discussion. Seeing none, we'll once again do a voice vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. That motion carries. Moving on to the next appointment.
All right, Jan Olson of Winneconne to the ADRC Board. Ms. Olson is reappointed to her second three-year term to represent the elderly in Winnebago County. The term expires August 31st of 2024.
There's a motion and a second to approve Jan Olson to the ADRC Commission. We'll open it up for any discussion. Seeing none, we'll once again do a voice vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay.
Aye.
That motion carries.
All right, Jerry Brash of Nakaimai to the Board of Adjustment. Mr. Brash is reappointed to the BOA as the first alternate. He previously served as the second alternate. The term expires June 30th of 2024.
Is there a motion? There's a motion and a second to approve the appointment of Jerry Brosh to the Board of Adjustment. Open it up for any discussion. Seeing none, we'll do a voice vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. That motion carries. Next appointment.
Okay, I'm appointing Tom Verstegen of Black Wolf to the Board of Adjustment. Mr. Verstegen is a retired state employee with service to the WDNR and Department of Safety and Professional Services. He previously served as a member of the Board of Adjustment and is the zoning administrator for the town of Black Wolf. Mr. Verstegen is appointed to a vacancy as the second alternate. He would not be used for the town of Black Wolf matters. The term expires June 30th of 2024.
Is there a motion?
So move.
There's a motion and a second to approve Tom Versagen to the Board of Adjustment. Open it up for any discussion. Seeing none, we'll once again do a voice vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. That motion carries. Moving on to the final appointment, County Executive.
All right, I'm appointing Lieutenant Colonel Timothy Patterson of Oshkosh to the Veteran Service Commission. Lieutenant Colonel Patterson is retiring from the Army Reserves after 3 decades of service. He lives in Oshkosh with his family. He is appointed to fill the vacancy of Supervisor Warnke. The term expires December 31st of 2021.
There's a motion and a second to approve Lieutenant Colonel Timothy Patterson to the Veterans Service Commission. We'll open it up for any discussion. Seeing none, we'll once again do a voice vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. That motion carries. Very good. Thank you, County Executive. All right, moving on to the next item. That's County Board Chairman's Report. So just a couple things. Most of them are updates or newer updates regarding things we've talked about briefly before. So first of all, just a reminder, we have a vacancy in District 8 and a vacancy in District 21. And there are 3 candidates actually in for each of those districts. So we'll be reaching out and making contacts with each of those individuals. Some of them we have, and some of them we will certainly be reaching out to all of them. And then the plan would be that the goal would be that we would have a recommended appointment for each of those districts for the board here to consider and approve for its November 16th meeting, which would mean that then it would have to be published the week prior. Okay, so just so everyone's on the same page with that. And then newer news, actually, in related news, we just learned, I think, yesterday, that Supervisor Alyssa Belante has resigned from the board. So she represented District 16 in Oshkosh. My understanding is she moved out of the district, and so given her moving out of the district, she cannot represent the district. Therefore, we will begin the process to fill that vacancy as well. So we'll do the public announcement period just like we've done with any of the other vacancy considerations in the past as well. And then just some reminders about upcoming meetings. So we got our budget deliberations coming up very soon. So budget sessions start on Monday, November 1st at 6 p.m. That will be in the exact same format as we did last year. So in other words, that would be virtual starting on Monday. That contrasts to this meeting today, and it contrasts to our November 16th meeting, where our November 16th meeting will again be a combined in-person Zoom meeting. So our budget, however, will be Zoom only. Part of the reason for that, just so you know, is we need to make a public announcement of the timing and put that out there pretty far in advance. I think it was about a month, roughly, in advance. So we had to make those decisions fairly early in advance, and therefore we made the determination at that time, given there, as you all know with budget session, we set aside 3 days, but we don't know exactly how long those days last until we go through our deliberations. So we made the decision that the budget session would be all virtual. We use the same format as we did last year. And we'll certainly provide you information in regards to the amendment process and how we did last year and how you can do that, again, before the meeting so everyone's on the same page. But just want to make you all aware of that. And then, once again, that our November meeting would be November 16th. And then the final thing to just let you know, it's actually coming up later in this meeting, but we had 2 presentations this evening, but the one from Reach Counseling actually won't occur tonight. So we were notified, but we will plan to reschedule them certainly at a different time. But just wanted to make you aware that when we come to the presentation session tonight, we'll have the one from the sheriff, but then not the one from Reach Counseling. So just kind of making everyone aware in advance of that. And with that, that concludes my report. So we'll move on to the next item, which is County Board. Oh, I'm sorry. Please go ahead, Supervisor Norton. Your mic should be open now.
Can you hear me? Okay.
Yes.
So am I understand that like last year, any voting on the amendments or the budget itself be done in an evening session and not at a random 2:30 or whatever that we have done in the past?
Yes, we're going to use frankly, it would be 4 o'clock on Wednesday. That's what we did last year. We're going to follow the exact same format. The only difference that we'll have is on Monday night, you'll see on the agenda, very similar to the same departments as last year. We'll have a few more at the end that we could either do on Monday or hold over till Tuesday, just depending on how long the Monday session goes. Of course, we want to kind of balance that, of course, because we understand that we have individuals that drive from different areas on Monday, and we want to make sure people are ready for Tuesday as well. So basically, we've built the structure so it gives us flexibility to do a certain number of departments on Monday or more, depending on how long the session is lasting. But the goal would be that on Monday, we'd finish up by 8:30 to try to ensure that folks would be able to drive home and be able to be well rested for Tuesday. Very similar to what we did last year.
Zoom.
Very good. And our finance director was mentioning, similar to like last year, we will email out to you all in advance more information about how that will occur. Okay? And then Monday, we'll recap it again. We did that last time. We'll recap the process again, just so everyone's on the same page as well. All right? All right, any other questions? All right, very good. So moving on to County Board Chairman's appointment. We have 2 of those, and these are because of vacancies, as you all know, which would mean that these individuals would be assigned to these committees through our April term, okay, just so everyone's on the same page for both of these appointments. So the first recommendation is to the Aviation Committee, and that's Supervisor Brian Stafford. There's a motion and a second to approve the appointment of Supervisor Brian Stafford to the Aviation Committee. I'd open it up for any discussion. Seeing none, we'll do a voice vote. All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed, say nay. And that motion carries. Moving on down to the next item, and that's the recommended appointment to the Highway Committee of Supervisor Ben Joas.
So move.
There's a motion, and there is a second to approve the appointment to the Highway Committee of Supervisor Ben Joas. I'd open it up for any discussion. Seeing none, we'll once again do a voice vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. And that motion carries. And just by the way, so we get to know each other, I did learn in that process that Supervisor Brian Stafford actually has had a pilot's license, so has some experience as a pilot, so certainly will be useful in that appointment. Moving on to the next item. So once again, Reach Counseling Agency update. We will have that at a later date. So we will move to the Sheriff's presentation, and that's the Sheriff's Office Employee Crisis presentation from Sheriff John Motz. Please go ahead, Sheriff.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Okay, we have an employee crisis, and I will show you what has happened at our agency for about the last 5 or 6 years and what our turnover rate has been. Now, some of it is not uncommon to what is occurring in law enforcement as a whole, but others, some of the things that you will see are some fixes that I'm going to ask of you later. Go ahead. So what's causing it? We have a dwindling workforce just as a whole. I know that there are restaurants, there are businesses, there are industry that is looking for workers, but we have a dwindling workforce. In 2028, we'll have a deficit of 6 million workers. Eligible workers are opting for part-time and not wanting full-time work. Nearly 1 million unavailable due to the opioid pandemic. Transfer of baby boomer wealth. We've done a really good job of taking care of our own retirement, and we're going to transfer that wealth to the tune of $68 trillion. So what I'm driving at is that this employee crisis that exists for us, not only the sheriff's office, but for our country as a whole and our area as a whole. Typically, or what is unique about us in law enforcement has been the narrative that we have seen through social media and mainstream media. Much of it is not true, and I'll let you form your own opinion, but it is driving people away to be in law enforcement. And we have elevated hiring standards that do not exist in other occupations. What do workers want? Flexible schedules, flexible deadlines, work from home. Those three things are things that we just can't offer. Now, the schedules that we have are as worker-friendly as we can make them. They have a 4-on, 5-off schedule for our deputies in the patrol division and in the jail division. We moved from a 6-on, 3-off, 8-hour day to a 4-on, 5-off, 12-hour day. It's actually more hours, but I should say it's actually less hours that they work, but we make up for that with training. So they train during some of their off time as well. And it's a schedule that is very popular amongst other agencies, and it's our way to compete with those other agencies. Pay is important, input on company direction, fulfillment, and appreciation. And we do what we can to fulfill our employees. We do what we can to appreciate them. We have an awards banquet yearly and then about quarterly. It's not been that way since COVID, but we will welcome new employees. We will send our retiring employees off with appreciation, and something that we haven't been able to do with COVID as regular, but it is something that we do. The fulfillment piece of it is difficult, especially in our jail division. If you're sitting in a pod with 70 inmates, it's difficult to be fulfilled. I understand that. We engage with the inmates, certainly. We try to assist them, but that's a long 12-hour day. And the things that you see both in all of our divisions, or the things that you hear, to include our comp center, are things that you can't imagine and that a normal person would never imagine. And it wears on you after a while. So there's a lot of things that go with the work that are very unique to any other occupation. So our current vacancies, and this will be, and I'll explain why we have a new table of organization in 2021, but we have 5 vacancy deputy positions in the jail, 2 booking security clerks in the jail. We just had a interview process today, and we hope to have filled some of those correctional deputy positions. However, 2 of the individuals that passed are currently booking clerks that we try to get on a track to move to the deputy position, so that 2 vacancies in security clerks could very well go up to 4. The booking security clerk doesn't have an educational requirement, and there are other requirements that they don't have that a deputy would have, so it is a little bit easier to hire that position. But that's nights, weekends, and holidays as well. Patrol division, we did have 3 vacancies. One of the processes right after right after the 3 vacancies came open, we had 8 people apply. 3 people didn't show up for the interview. 1 called, said he couldn't make it. 2 passed the interview, and 1 failed the physical agility test. It left us with 1 who failed the background. And those are the requirements that we have to have, and we will not lower our standard, because all we do is create issues for our citizens. We create issues in the sheriff's office. But we are moving 3 deputies from the corrections division to the patrol division. They went through the interview process and have been selected, and will start at various times. And then I have 3 dispatcher positions that are open as well. There are 5 in training, and they're starting to come off now of training, and we held off on hiring because having 5 in training at once is very difficult. So on September 7th, we did a table of organization change. And basically what this all amounts to is, originally we had asked for 3 additional positions in the jail. So it would have taken our table of organization up to 210. So I'm working basically off of what I had originally put in for on the budget. The reason that we asked for those 3 positions was we were looking at accreditation for the jail, and part of that accreditation was one-on-one supervision of suicidal inmates. Well, that was the accreditation standard, but we now have Lexipol, which is who Wisconsin Counties Association hired to write our policies, to assist us with policies, is requiring that. So regardless of whether we go towards accreditation or not, we're still going to have to do that. So what we did was we looked at our revenue that we were receiving for inmates that we were housing for the state, both state contract inmates and extended supervision inmates. And that was about 1.1 million, a little bit more. And then we had some savings in meals that would be served. We had some reduction in revenue loss on commissary and phone. The whole thing boiled out that if we eliminated what was then 13 positions, we came out $23,000 ahead, but we gave up all of that revenue. So it was our math way of coming down from 210 employees to 197, which is more manageable. Otherwise, we would have had 10 more vacancies that we would have had to have filled in the deputy position, and we just couldn't do it. And I don't know that we're going to be able to do it unless the job market changes drastically. So our shift minimum went from 10 in the jail down to 7. Our turnover, and this is interesting. We've turned over 158 employees since 2016. Remember, we only had 207. That is crazy. Now, of that, 105 of them are losses that maybe could have been controlled. The other ones were retirements, and that's what we all strive for. There were general employees, other positions that are the Monday through Friday, 8 to 4, that I typically do not have difficulty filling, and reserve deputies, which are not full-time, and they are just used really during our event season. So when you take that 153, you subtract the retirements and the other positions I just talked about, it's 105 employees we turned over half of our workforce in 6 years. And that is what is very concerning, but not totally uncommon, but the reasons that they're leaving are some of the things we're going to talk about, the disparity in pay when it comes to deputy positions. I'll now talk about training costs, because when you turn over that many employees, you'll look at the bottom here, and there's a lot of numbers, but basically for each of the positions that I'm going to talk about, the dispatcher position, it costs us $32,000 to train one. It is a 6 to 8 month training period. If after that 8 months they leave, that's $32,000 we flushed down the toilet. Now, the corrections deputy, it depends on whether they need to go to the recruit academy, the jail recruit academy. So it's either $32,000 or $24,000. Booking clerk is $11,000, and patrol deputy is anywhere between $63,000 and $35,000. So what I did was I averaged all of those together, and it cost us about $3.7 million to train our employees over the last 6 years, since 2016, so 5.5. And that is money that we will never get back, and our investment is gone. That doesn't include the vacant slots that were open because we didn't have anybody filling that position. Right now, we're better than we were before. We're starting to fill some positions, and we're getting a little bit better. However, it's costing us about $24,000 a month in vacant positions for overtime. And that will eat up a major portion of our overtime budget. So what are the fixes? Competitive wages and fringe, schedule options, a lateral transfer policy, recruitment and retention bonuses, the opportunity for advancement. And the next two are really what I see after my tenure as sheriff will happen. not because I don't want it to happen, I think it's just going to take time. As a matter of fact, I'm in favor of it. And that is combining resources. We will see joint PSAPs, public safety answering points, joint dispatch centers, whether it's us out of Gamey and Fond du Lac, whether it's jails that consist of 4 counties, because and it's not going to be to save money, because it will, some with supervision, et cetera, but you're going to have brick and mortar costs up front, because we won't have the employees. They just won't exist. So there's going to have to be a major shift for how we're going to take care of these things. That isn't going to happen now, and it doesn't need to happen right now, but some of these other things do. The schedule options, I kind of talked about what we're doing with our schedule. I don't know that there's anything else that we can do to change our schedules to make it more appealing. It is the most popular schedule amongst law enforcement. We did have people that left because they didn't like the schedule, but more so it was the pay that they were leaving for. We need a lateral transfer policy. We have talked to HR, talked to the county exec. I know we're working on something that's more county-wide, but ours will be different because the union will need to approve the lateral transfer policy. They still have collective bargaining rights. So we have put together a draft of that, and hopefully that will get done. But my discussion here tonight will be about stabilizing the force that we have, because the people that we have are amazing, and we need to keep them in their positions, and we can't have the kind of turnover I just talked about. The recruitment retention bonuses, what some places are finding is that if they really want an employee, so if you sign an employee to a 5-year contract with a $10,000 bonus, which is what the military does, but if you do that with an employee, if they go to another agency and apply, if they're that good, the agency will pay you to take that employee from you, and you still lost all of that training costs that you've put into them. And that's what we're seeing. The opportunity for advancement, some of the things that I'm going to talk about tonight will hit on the opportunity for advancement for positions that didn't typically have that. The reduced services, that's another option we can do. But if we reduce services, that is to what you have enjoyed with law enforcement for the past 100 years. And I don't want to do that. I don't want to tell a citizen that their theft complaint is not important enough for us to send a deputy to. They'll need to go online and fill out their own form. I don't want to do that. I want to actually investigate those small things because they're big things to the person that's reporting it, and a lot of times they stop the big things from happening. So I do not want to do that. I will, we still have deputies respond to car deer crashes. Some agencies require the driver to do that, to fill out their own form online. We still do that, and we're going to continue to do that. That's what we're here for. So I want to talk a little bit about competition. When the contract is negotiated, they use what comparables are. So we would be, our comparable would be Outagamie County, Walworth County, kind of the same size, demographics, etc. However, you have to throw that all to the side because now we're in competition with every agency in this area. And when you look at what those agencies are making in comparison in our patrol division, it is a $5 difference in pay, at top pay. And some of them are in the process of negotiating contracts right now, which will even get bigger gap will exist. Now, I know when some of you may look at these numbers, you say, holy cow, that's a lot of money. I don't disagree. However, this is what we're going to have to do in order to keep the employees that we have. If we don't, we're going to lose them. Next slide. Our comm center. Now, our comm center is a little bit different. Our dispatch center, we are actually $2 ahead of the competition. That doesn't mean I still have vacancies. A lot of that has to do with the schedule. A lot of that has to do with the expectations. We have extremely high expectations at the sheriff's office, and I know all the other agencies do as well. But I also believe that our expectations are not unrealistic, but they're extremely high. and there's a lot of accountability that occurs at our agency. But you can see pay-wise, there isn't really anything we need to do in the dispatch center other than with our current dispatcher in charge, increase that by $1 an hour. Currently, it is $1 an hour. I'd like to make it $2 an hour. The reason is a lot of comm centers that are our size, matter of fact, Outagamie is a good example, they have a supervisor that's unplugged. We have lead workers. They have a supervisor that's unplugged, and the only time that they plug in is when absolute chaos is going on. Ours are different. They are a lead worker, but yet still expected to supervise the other dispatchers within the comm center. Our jail division. Here's another one where the jail deputies are paid more than the competition in our area. I know that some of the abbreviations that I'm using here, it's Outagamie is the first one, Fond du Lac, Brown County, Green Lake County, Wapaka County, and WISO is us, Winnebago Sheriff's Office. So it's actually, the difference in the top pay is nearly $4 an hour. So there we're actually paying more. Now, again, the expectations are extremely high. They have deputy status, so that means if someone comes into the lobby and they have a warrant, they take them into custody. If there's an issue that occurs on our facility grounds and patrol is not available, they have responded to those. If there's a disturbance in our rotunda, which has happened, they respond. There are things that they are responsible to do that other jail officers, not deputies, these are deputized, protected employees that they're required to do. When we have special events, many of them are on our crowd control tactical team, and they will respond to those events. 30 of the 60, roughly 60, are law enforcement certified, so they could leave and be a patrol officer. They opt to stay in the jail division. We get to the detectives, $3.65 an hour difference between what our detectives, they make $3.65 less. This has come over negotiations, it has been part of negotiations, and it is now just caught up to us in the employee race, because everybody is racing to get employees. Everybody is looking to steal and headhunt, and we have to make sure we're keeping our own. You can see that in the detective division, there are some that are in their last year of the contract, so we'll see those go up fairly dramatic increases in the upcoming years. So, the salary deficiencies exist in the patrol division, detectives, jail supervisors. There are 15 jail supervisors, and Mary Ann, I don't know if she's here tonight, but she can attest to the fact that we get sued often, and most of them are frivolous, and most of them come from our jail division. And they are mitigated by our jail supervision. They do an excellent job making sure that we are out of that litigation. Anybody can sue you for anything, and it happens often. I've been sued twice in one day, that's my record. But they are protecting the taxpayer when they're there, and they're supervising the inmates and when they're supervising their staff. Administration, there is, all the administrators are responsible to be patrol officers as well. They respond to scenes, they manage scenes, and as we increase wages for the patrol detectives, there's that factor that occurs where it gets closer and closer to being an administrator pay, and there is no incentive to move to the administrator position. And it's very close now. The top wage earners on the agency are not the administration. They are people, they are deputies that are working a lot of overtime at their own discretion, not at what we tell our administrators who are at-will employees to work. And then the dispatcher in charge, which I talked about already. So by adding $3 an hour for our deputies in those positions, with direct law enforcement duties or supervision adds $753,721, plus the $1 an hour per DIC. The total is nearly $775,000. But I draw you back to what we have paid for training, what we have paid in costs, filling vacant slots, etc. This will maintain the force that we have. I am confident it will maintain the force that we have. And then with the lateral transfer policy, we went to Chicago and went to a job fair. Illinois and the state of Minnesota have not been kind to law enforcement with changes that they have made to civil liability. So there are officers that are leaving those two states, and we're trying to grab them. And we will be going to Minneapolis next week. But in order to do that, if I'm a cop coming from Minneapolis, I have a great record, I'm a good hire, and I can go to Oshkosh PD, which is 4 miles down the road, and make $4 more an hour or $5 more an hour. It's a no-brainer. It at least brings us more in line. Now, nothing is going to happen tonight, but at the time of budget, I will ask that it does. I just want to talk a little bit about the state ranking in law enforcement expense per capita. Per capita, we are number 2 in the most frugal. We have spent the second least amount on law enforcement expense per capita in the state. And next slide. Public safety as a whole, we're still number 2. So when you look at law enforcement, meaning patrol, detectives, and then you look at public safety, which includes the jail, the comm center, we're still number 2 in least expensive in the state of Wisconsin. So we've done a good job holding down the budget, but we're coming to that point where we're just not going to have anybody to work. I'll take questions.
Thank you, Sheriff. We'll open it up for questions from the county board. I see a couple. First, I'll call on Supervisor Gabbard, followed by Supervisor Defferting. Please go ahead, Supervisor Gabbard.
Thank you, Chairman Ramos. Questions and statements. As of last week, I understand 600 police officers are now done working in Minneapolis or the area. There's a job pool, but of course, if you can go down the street 4 blocks, you're going to go there. This is a reality check, I think, for this board and for this county. I have friends that have been in the sheriff's department for almost 30 years. They make a good wage. They're burned out. They can't wait till the day they retire. And they will not come back as a part-time employee. They will not do security. They will not do anything that has to do with law enforcement. Are they good people? Absolutely. But I remind you that they have a good wage, but they earn every ounce of it. But the reality check here tonight is we don't have a choice. I don't like to put extra money in our budget, but this is how it is today. You couldn't pay me to be a police officer. You couldn't pay me to be a dispatcher. There is so much stress involved with both jobs. We have a great sheriff. He's done a good job. This is a reality check on where we're headed with our budgets. We're frugal, frugal, frugal. We rob from one department to balance a budget. That's probably got to stop. I don't know how much burden the taxpayers can take on this, but if we don't have a police department, sheriff's department, and we don't have a health department, we're losing some real important entities in this county. But we also have to realize we have other employees in the county that are probably looking at this and going, wow, that guy makes that much per hour, and I only make $18, and I think my job is valuable. So there's going to have to be some resolution that everybody that works at Winnebago County is essential to this entire county, whether you are in the maintenance, whether you are in the sheriff's department, finance, you name it, facilities. So I don't know how much you're going to ask, but I would assume it's astounding amount to begin with. And so we're going to have a major raise in our budget, which disturbs me that we're at this point. So I feel bad for Winnebago County and the taxpayers and this board because we're going to have to make some tough decisions. So I've done some math here. So what do you come up with for a starting deputy? And do they work 40 hours? You said 4 on, 5 off. Is that 7-hour shift or is that a
It's a 12-hour shift.
12 hours? So
Yeah,
4
it's
times 12.
1,986 hours a year.
Okay.
So,
Almost 2,000.
right.
It's a full
It's a
load.
typical.
It's a
right.
typical, right.
Yeah.
So when somebody leaves your department, other than retirement, do you feel they're just giving up? Or are they going to another department that pays more? Or less action, maybe? I don't know. I think all departments in the sheriff's area would be busy right now. So why do you think people are leaving? Because I think we have a great sheriff's department. So you think it's just the time that it is right now for them?
Well, I think it's a litany of reasons, but pay is one. You know, if I can go, especially with a lateral transfer policy, I'm going to leave as a patrolman with 10 years experience, and I'm going to take that with me with the pay scale. I'm going to take they're going to give me that much vacation. Really all I'm losing is my seniority, and that's it. So that's part of it. Others is they're burned out. That's a great point because they are. When you look at essential employees, I had one person work from home for 2 weeks. That was it during the pandemic. That's it. And that was out of an absolute need, and we brought them back after 2 weeks. They are absolutely essential, and
Hard to do your job from home.
exactly, we can't.
Very hard,
Right,
yes.
we can't do that. So there's an array of reasons. I mean, some have left law enforcement as a whole. They just do not want to deal with, when you're in a traffic stop, we have our body cam on, but that person has a cell phone that they're filming as well. And when they put their video on social media, it's going to be the 10 seconds that weren't real great, but not the 2 minutes that led up to it or what happened afterward. So
The
it's
entire
tough.
situation of
Yeah, right.
being a police, a sheriff's deputy or a jailer even, and dispatcher, again, I bring that up because if you ever want to be stressed out, just try being a dispatcher. So the whole scenario in the United States has changed, and this is a reflection of that, but these yet are essential workers that we have to pay to keep. I don't like really the bonus structure because so many places have done that, and they've had to revamp it where we're going to give you a $500 or $1,000 signing bonus. The person takes the job, and 2 weeks later, where's my bonus, and I'm out of here.
Yep,
So that scenario doesn't work, so I guess it would have to be on the wages.
right.
Okay, thank you very much.
Welcome.
Thank you, Supervisor Gabbard. So we have a number of call-ins, just so all the supervisors are on the same page. So we'll go next to Supervisor Defferting, then Supervisor Fari, Eisen, and Konetsky, and then after that, Supervisor Buck and Supervisor Shorsey. So just so everyone's aware and not wondering, they're all in the queue. So next we'll go to Supervisor Defferting. Please go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, this is definitely a problem that's just in every industry right now. The forward analytics from the Wisconsin Counties Association just recently released, well, not recently, it was released in regards to our workforce, and overall our workforce is dwindling. And it's, it's, people can get into, economics and get into, how public policy affected it, but I mean, I used to work in the stainless steel industry for 9 years, and I know that at that time the average age of a welder was 58 years old, and so we're starting to we're just simply put we're not having enough bodies to replace the people that are leaving the workforce, and so this is now coming to the fore in regards to our law enforcement. So in lieu of that, I mean, we do have to certainly think of outside of the box solutions too, in regards to this. And I noticed in your presentation you talked about combining resources, and one of the things that I was looking at is specifically in regards to restorative justice courts. And I know that that's kind of a newer idea for Wisconsin. Some counties are looking to explore it a little bit more. It's something that's completely optional. You don't have to take it, but it is certainly an alternative to incarceration. And with that in mind, it might be something that we could do to lessen the demand in our jails, and lessen the demand of staffing that we have in the jails. Is that something that I just wanted to get your overall opinion on that, and what are your thoughts on that? And is that something you might be open in doing in the future?
Sure. Actually, I'm part of the evidence-based decision-making group that consists of judges and defense attorneys. I'm actually the only police officer that's on that committee. We have a meeting tomorrow. And you're right, there are some restorative justice programs out there, but I don't know how we could have any less people in jail in Winnebago County. Our count, without, now we are getting rid of the state contract inmates, and we're doing that gradually right now. We will be about 150 inmates. When I started in 1990, we were at 135. Now 1990 crime rates compared to where we are now, 1990 population to where we are now, we don't have people that do not belong in jail. We have the right people in jail, and I would argue that there are some that should be in jail that are not. So I don't know that you can decrease that any more than it's already been decreased. And as far as restorative justice, I mean, that's a fancy term for trying to put people on the right track. And what we have to remember is they have to want to go on that track. And they have to want to be on that track. There has to be drive on their side. And if they don't, they will tell you anything and everything, but there has to be accountability with that. Accountability is incarceration. And I still strongly believe that, and I will until the end of time.
Certainly, yep. And you know, and I agree. I mean, obviously, when it comes to restorative justice courts, it requires action on all parties involved. I mean, it's not just simply between two people. It's everyone in the community, including the person that committed the crime. But it certainly is something that we could look at least to reduce recidivism, and if so, if we can reduce recidivism, that would then indeed lessen the amount of demand for our officers. So it's just something to think about, I guess, going forward.
Okay.
Thank you, Supervisor Defferting. Next speaker is Supervisor Fari, followed by Supervisor Eisen. Please go ahead, Supervisor Fari.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Sheriff, if this county board were to approve your request, then I assume that would become your base salary. Given that situation, obviously, if your union that represents the officers, I assume they're going to request a 3 or 4% raise in the future. So this base would automatically increase that. What is your thinking as how that affects the negotiating process with the union that represents the officers?
Yes, Supervisor Fari, it would increase their pay by $3, and it doesn't matter where they are in the pay scale, but it would increase it. Do I think that it would then be the starting point for the next negotiations, which would be the 2023 and beyond contract? Yeah, I do. But if it's not, we're right back to where we started, because these other agencies, which I pointed out, are going to be that much further ahead. Some of them are in negotiations right now with starting and top pay that much more than we are already. I hope that answers your question.
I believe it does. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Fari. Next speaker is Supervisor Eisen, followed by Supervisor Konecki. Please go ahead, Supervisor Eisen.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Sheriff Motz, what has been the union response to these concerns, and have they contributed ideas on how to go forward with this shortage of employees?
Yes, the union has been involved somewhat. I mean, they are very much aware. I had a meeting with all of the deputies last week and just informed them at what we were looking at. The union has been involved. We have to be very careful to not step outside into collective bargaining outside of the contract. I am not the chief negotiating person for the county. That is our HR director. But yes, they have been involved in the process. They have the same thought process. They believe that this will stabilize the force that we have. And then with, actually during one of the meetings, one of the jail deputies brought up bringing 2 of his former co-workers from Outagamie County Jail to Winnebago if we had a lateral transfer policy so they could bring their vacation over. They've already been there 5 years, have, 3 weeks, whatever it is, 2 or 3 weeks vacation, and they would come, but they don't want to give up that vacation time, even though they would already be getting a fairly significant increase in pay. So it's part of the solution. They are part of that solution, being careful not to negotiate outside of the contract.
Thank you. Thank you, Supervisor Eisen. Next speaker is Supervisor Konecki, followed by Supervisor Buck. Please go ahead, Supervisor Konecki.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Officer Motz, how can you make yourself more efficient as far as with your other communities? Can you bend the boundaries a little bit to be more, give up something and gain something in the past or something like that at certain hours even?
Well, there are certain things that we are statutorily bound to do. We are bound, as a sheriff's office, to provide a jail to Winnebago County. We are bound to tend to the courts. We are bound to investigate crimes in the rural part of our community and provide patrol services. That is per statute. We have to do that. And that's really what we do. Now, we are combining resources already with, we have a crash recon team, which when we have a fatal car crash and there's charges that are involved, which happens unfortunately way too often, we send our recon team out and they reconstruct that entire crash scene. And we're looking at serious, sometimes 30, 40-year sentences that that person is facing. We have individuals outside of our agency on that crash recon team from different agencies in order to spread out that labor and to spread out the costs involved. Same thing with the tactical team. There are officers outside of the sheriff's office on the team, and it spreads out that workload. So we're doing a lot of that already. Is there more that can be done? Probably, and that's what we have to work for. But right now, there isn't an agency in Winnebago County that I'm aware of that's full, that has full staff. So to try to say we're going to spread it around with different agencies is very difficult when none of us are fully staffed.
Thank you. You use the term "we" quite a bit. I like to ask you personally, you have any real strong views, personally yourself, about any item?
Yeah, I mean, I feel strongly about everything I just said to you.
Okay.
When I say we, I work as a team with the entire sheriff's office. So this is not just my bright idea, although I think it's a very good one. This is amongst all of us putting our heads together and coming up with solutions that not only fix it short term, start to fix it long term, and to fill the gaps that we have had. So when I say we, I'm not doing this alone. I have the support of the agency and as well as the county exec and others within the county.
Thank you. Is there cooperation there with the other communities in other issues all the way?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Konecki. Next, we'll call on Supervisor Buck, followed by Vice Chair Egan. Please go ahead, Supervisor Buck.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Sheriff Motz, for this fantastic and very thorough presentation. I guess one thing, a couple questions here. One thing I didn't see on there was total package. I guess what I mean by that is health care and benefits. Does Winnebago County, the deputies, just have their own health and retirement plan, is that just for Winnebago County, or is that a statewide plan? I guess that's my first question.
It's the state retirement fund, but we included the fringe rate into that total amount. So that is what the amount is. It's not just labor. There's fringe in there as well.
Okay. And then early retirement for officers or for deputies, I should say, that's a statewide thing. I assume that deputies, if they put in, I guess, what is the year amount when they can retire? If they start at 18 years old, what is the age that they can retire at?
Well, because of our educational requirements, they couldn't start at 18, but some start as early as 21. We just had a 21-year-old start. And his mom brought in treats, and she's like 15 years younger than I am. But they can retire with 25 years of service and at least the age of 50, but there's a penalty until you get to age 53, and then you can retire with no penalty if you are a deputy in the protected retirement.
Gotcha. That's the statewide retirement plan for deputies, I'm assuming, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And then I guess you did answer the question about who's the negotiator. Are you on the negotiating team?
I am not.
You're not. And then the deputies and the employees, I guess, have to agree to the contract and the terms. So in the past, they have to vote on that. That's something that they've all agreed on. Is that how their collective bargaining agreement is structured?
Yes.
Okay, so they've agreed to these. I guess I would look at them as lower wages than other counties. So, and to echo some of the other supervisors' comments about, there is, a lot of different agencies are facing the same struggles. So hopefully we can come up with a solution. And again, appreciate your comments and your presentation tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. And just to clarify, they have not officially voted, but, I'm confident that the sidebar agreement to the contract would pass.
You must have the negotiator for Winnebago County. I guess he's doing a good job for the taxpayers, but maybe in the long run, it hasn't been so good for the employees.
Correct.
Thank you, Supervisor Buck. Before we go to Vice Chair Egan, I know at one point Supervisor Shorsey was in the queue. I just wanted to make sure that we didn't do anything that might have dropped her off. Supervisor Shorsey, I just wanted to make sure, or did you lower your hand? Okay, I think she lowered her hand. I just wanted to make sure that it wasn't in error. So we'll certainly give her another opportunity if needed. So I'll call on Vice Chair Egan. Please go ahead.
Thank you,
Vice Chair
Mr.
Egan.
Chairman. Thank you, Sheriff Motz, for that good presentation. I agree with you 100% because there's nothing more important than our sheriff department for protection and all that. We have to have them. But on the other hand, we've got to remember our other people in Winnebago County. I think all of you serve on different committees and that, or most of you do, and all of them are complaining they don't have the help. And the major reason is the money. So if we're going to do that and we're going to give them, although I know it's a separate entity there, if we're going to give it that, we better be ready when it comes time for us to do budget to go ahead and look at these other ones and make sure we treat everyone fair at budget time. I think these committees have worked real hard with their people, but we're not the ones that can give out the money. So we're going to have to think about that at budget time. And hopefully Mike Collard is sitting there in the back. I remember, 5, 6, 7 years ago, he come in and he had a plan that he was going to equal everything out, and we were going to be really good in Winnebago County, and we we're going to be able to equal it all out and have good pay for everyone. Well, I don't know if you did yet, or Mike, I didn't see it. Maybe the rest of them have. I haven't seen it yet. So hopefully you'll have something at budget time that I can find too. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Chair Egan. I see no other call-ins, so, I apologize. Supervisor Finch, please go ahead, Supervisor Finch.
Hey, thank you. The Sheriff's Department go through a lot of stuff, not only with their own people, the citizens, wherever, but yet they're right there to protect us. So therefore, I want to thank Sheriff Motz and his group, because the way they do it and the way they act, I don't know, it makes me feel a hell of a lot safer. So I just want to say thank you to you and your staff. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Finch. We actually do have one more call in.
Okay.
Call on Supervisor Binder. Please go ahead, Supervisor Binder.
I guess I'd just like to say, today I rode down Jackson Street and I see McDonald's big flashing sign, $15 an hour. I know we got room attendants at Parkview that only make 14 starting out. I think we need to look at all the pay for Winnebago County employees. If you watch the news, Social Security is getting a 5.9% raise this upcoming in 2022. We're offering a 3% raise. You know, we can't keep our employees. It's a sign of the times. You know, wages have went up. Menards, part-time, 16 and a quarter. You know, so if we want to keep our employees in Winnebago County, we're going to have to find the money to pay them. We have a healthy reserve, and I think we have to look at it because it costs a lot of money to train people, and we have a revolving door. You know, I mean, last year, about 25% of our workforce left. I don't think that's what we want to be. We don't want to replace our workforce every 4 years. You know, we have to basically look at the pay schedule, and we have to pay competitively. I mean, there's just no way of getting employees no more for basically less than $14 an hour. So I think all this needs to be done, and we have a healthy reserve. If we have to tap into it, so be it. That's why we have it. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Binder. I think Executive Damel had a comment related to some of the pay.
Yeah, I do. I just want to address something really quick. There is absolutely a crisis on our hands. We absolutely are going to have to look at countywide what we have to do. That's one of the things that I was talking about, to make sure that we know what our priorities are, so that we can make sure that we're focusing on the things we need to do. Our number one goal is to make sure our citizens are safe, and Sheriff, I think you have a very big part in that. Another goal is to make sure our employees are treated well and respected and valued. And we have a ways to go. We are not as fast as the private sector. It's going to take us a bit. That being said, we do have a crisis on the hand in the Sheriff's Department, and I can promise you, I am willing to work with any one of you with any ideas to make sure that we are appreciating our employees to the levels that we need to, and I'm willing to work with whatever we have to do to get them there. But I do not want I don't want the Sheriff's Department to get held up, you know, to make sure that we do have to look across the board, absolutely. This is a very big priority right now. Mainly because if you looked at the presentation that he gave, our detectives in the sheriff's office are making less than patrol officers at Oshkosh Police Department. And I just want to make sure that we are giving the sheriff his due in his presentation now, that we make sure that we give that an honest thought during budget, and don't hold it hostage for the rest of the county. But I can promise you, we will be looking at the rest of the county too. We have to do right by our workers.
Thank you, Executive Damel. Sheriff, any further comments before we conclude?
Thank you for your time.
Very good. Thank you, Sheriff, for being here, for the information and all you do. Appreciate it. Okay, moving on to the next item. So we're at the top of the second page, and that's zoning reports and ordinances. We have a number this evening. So the first one is report number 001, Ann M. Luker Revocable Trust, Leon C. Luker Revocable Trust, Town of Black Wolf. For that, I'll call on Supervisor Keller. If we could please open up the mic for Supervisor Keller.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move for approval of report number 001.
There's a motion and a second to approve report number 001. Any discussion? And once again, for any supervisor on Zoom, just go ahead and raise your Zoom hand throughout any of these, and I'll call on you in succession. Seeing none, we'll do a voice vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? Say nay. That motion carries. Moving on to the next item, that's amendatory ordinance number 10-00121, rezoning from A2 General Agriculture to R1 Rural Residential for tax parcel number 004-0503 and 004-0503-06. Once again, calling Supervisor Keller.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move for acceptance of a mandatory ordinance 10-00121.
There's a motion and a second to approve mandatory ordinance number 10-00121. We'll open it up for any discussion. Seeing none, we'll do a voice vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. And just in case, once again, like I've done before, if there's any clarification, if there's a nay vote on Zoom and you're unsure if we caught it, you can raise your Zoom hand when we're doing the nay votes just to verify. So moving on to the next item, that's report number 002, Linda M. Hammer and Catherine H. Liner, Town of Amro. I'll call on Vice Chair Egan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move for the approval of report number 002.
There's a motion and a second to approve report number 002. Any discussion? Seeing none, we'll do a voice vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. That motion carries. Moving on to the next item, that's mandatory ordinance number 10-00221, rezoning from R1 rural residential to A2 general agriculture for tax parcel numbers 016-0647 and 016-0646. And once again, call on Vice Chair Egan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move for the approval of mandatory ordinance number 10-00221.
There's a motion and a second to approve mandatory ordinance number 10-00221. Any discussion? Seeing none, we'll do a voice vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. That motion carries. Moving on down to the next report. That's report number 003, Rock Wenzel, Town of Wolf River. I'll call on Supervisor Joas. Supervisor Joas, for a motion for report number, if we could open the mic.
There we go. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move for adoption of report number 003.
There's a motion and a second to approve report number 003. We'll open it up for any discussion. Seeing none, we'll once again do a voice vote. All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed, say nay. And that motion carries. Moving on down to the next item. Amendatory ordinance number 10-00321, rezoning from R8A2 manufactured mobile home park, general agriculture, to A2 general agriculture for tax parcel numbers 032-0609 and 032-0610. Once again, call on Supervisor Joas.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move for adoption of a mandatory ordinance number 10-00321.
There's a motion and a second to approve amendatory ordinance number 10-00321. Any discussion? Seeing none, we'll once again do a voice vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. That motion carries. Moving on down to the next report, and that's report number 004, Town of Nepieskin. I will call on Vice Chair Egan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move for the approval of number 004.
There's a motion and a second to approve report number 004. We'll open it up for any discussion. Seeing none, we'll do a voice vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. That motion carries. Moving on down to the next item. That's amendatory ordinance number 10-0421, amendment to the Winnebago County Comprehensive Future Land Use Plan in order to amend Farmland Preservation Plan element. I'll once again call on Vice Chair Egan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move for the approval of mandatory ordinance number 10-0421.
There's a motion and a second to approve amendatory ordinance number 10-0421. We'll open it up for any discussion. Please go ahead, Vice Chair Egan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just wanted to explain this a little bit. Nepieskim is the only township in Winnebago County that has applied for this comprehensive plan. And we had talked about it before and this and that, but it had never gone through. They went ahead, redone their whole map and this and that, got farmers signed up, some went out, but the majority went in, this and that, so they do have the qualifying amount. After we approve it tonight, then it has to be sent in and go through the state and everything. So it's not necessarily a give me, but pretty much. But they're the only ones that went through everything and applied for it and have got it that far. So hopefully you'll all approve it.
Thank you for that clarification, Vice Chair Egan. So there was a motion and a second to approve amendatory ordinance number 10-0421. Any other discussion? Seeing none, we'll once again do a voice vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. That That motion carries. Moving on down to the next item, that's a mandatory ordinance number 100521. Town of Poygan, on behalf of Gregory Jackson, rezoning from RR, Rural Residential, to A2 General Agriculture for tax parcel number 020-0469-03. I'll call on Supervisor Joas.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move for adoption of a mandatory ordinance number 100521.
There's a motion and a second to approve a mandatory ordinance number 100621. I'll open it up for any discussion. Excuse me, that was 100521, I apologize. So there's a motion and a second to approve a mandatory ordinance number 100521. Any discussion? Seeing none, we'll once again do a voice vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed say nay. That motion carries. Moving on down to the next item. That's a mandatory ordinance number 100621. Town of Winchester, on behalf of Mary Alice Eisch, rezoning from R1, R2, Rural Residential District, Suburban Residential District, to R2 Suburban Residential District for tax parcel numbers 028-0957, 028-0636, 028-0636-02-01, 028-0636-06, and finally, 028-0636-08. I'll once again call on Supervisor Joas.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move for adoption of a mandatory ordinance number 100621.
There's a motion and a second to approve a mandatory ordinance number 100621. We'll open it up for any discussion. Seeing none, we'll once again do a voice vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed say nay. That motion carries. Moving on down to the next item, that's a mandatory ordinance number 100721. Town of Winchester, on behalf of Michael and Cindy Cronenberg, rezoning from A2 General Agricultural District to L1 Light Industrial District for tax parcel number 028-0661. I'll once again call on Supervisor Joas.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move for adoption of a mandatory ordinance number 100721.
There's a motion and a second to approve a mandatory ordinance number 100721. We'll open it up for any discussion. Seeing none, we'll once again do a voice vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed say nay. That motion carries. We have two more items. The next one is the mandatory ordinance number 100821. Town of Vinland, on behalf of Stephen Learman, Nick's Auto Parks Incorporated, rezoning from B2, B3, Highway Business Park District, General Business District to M2 Heavy Industrial District for tax parcel numbers, get ready, 026-0050-01, 026-0051-01, 026-0051-02, 026-0051-03, and finally, 026-0050-01-01. I'll call on Supervisor Fari.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move for approval of a mandatory ordinance 100821 in the town of Vinland. I might offer a brief explanation, if I might.
Please go ahead, Supervisor Fari.
If you read in the minutes, there was a little issue with one of the parcels not being referred to. I called the town chairman and got that clarified. Chapter 19 requires on a zoning change public notification in the paper. That parcel was included in that notification. So I believe they are certainly within the requirements of Chapter 19 if there's any questions on that issue.
Thank you for that clarification, Supervisor Fari.
Thank you.
So there was a motion and a second to approve a mandatory ordinance number 100821. Any other discussion? Seeing none, we'll do a voice vote. All those in favor say aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed say nay. That motion carries. The final item under zoning reports and ordinances, that's a mandatory ordinance number 100921. Town of Utica, on behalf of Leonard and Teresa Schmick, rezoning from R1 rural residential to RR rural residential recreational for tax parcel number 024-0164-02. I'll call on Vice Chair Egan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move for the approval of mandatory ordinance number 100921.
There's a motion and a second to approve mandatory ordinance number 100921. We'll open it up for any discussion. Seeing none, we'll once again do a voice vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say nay. And that motion carries. And that concludes the zoning reports and ordinances. So we'll move on to the next section, which is resolutions and ordinances. The first one is resolution number 217-10-2021, commendation for Elizabeth Kritz. I'll call on Supervisor Rasmussen.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move for Resolution 217-10-2021.
There's a motion and a second to approve. Please proceed, Supervisor Rasmussen.
Elizabeth Kritz, better known as Liz, began working as a nursing assistant at Parkview Health Center in September 1990. Liz was known for her positive attitude and her dedicated service in caring for the residents who live at Parkview. Liz spent many hours in all areas of the building, ensuring that the best care was provided to everyone. We congratulate Liz on her retirement after 31 years of service and wish her the best in her future endeavors.
Thank you, Supervisor Rasmussen. So there was a motion and a second to approve resolution number 217-1021, commendation for Elizabeth Kritz. I'll open it up for any discussion. Seeing none, we'll do a voice vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say nay. That motion carries. Moving on down to the second item. That's resolution number 218-2021. Commendation for Vicki Redlin. Once again, call on Supervisor Rasmussen.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Move for Resolution 218-10-2021.
There's a motion and a second to approve resolution number 218-10-2021. Commendation for Vicki Redlin. We'll open it up for any discussion. Oh, please go ahead, Supervisor Rasmussen.
Vicki Redlin was hired as assistant manager of the Expo Center in March 1999. She served in that role and as program manager and Expo manager until her retirement last month, was also acting director of Parks and Expo Center for several months. Vicki's accomplishments include tripling the number of paid Expo events, implementing a monthly newsletter and Facebook page, conceptualizing the all-inclusive natural way in the community park, and research on the Sunnyview Cemetery, as well as the Netzer Nature Area and Bowling Arbor. I hope I got that right. Vicki's hope was to leave Winnebago County Parks and Sunnyview Expo Center in a place where they can continue to grow and benefit all citizens. We wish her the best in her retirement.
Thank you, Supervisor Rasmussen. So there was a motion and a second to approve resolution number 218-10-2021, commendation for Vicki Redlin. We'll open it up for any discussion. Please go ahead, Supervisor Finch. And if we could open up the mic for Supervisor Finch. There we go.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I had the pleasure of being on parks for a long time, and for quite a while I was also the park chairman. So I got to work with Vicki a lot. And I mean, jeekers, you could go there 5:30 at night, she's there. You could go there on a Saturday, she's there. I mean, she was a very good employee of Winnebago County, and she's going to be greatly missed. So, Vicki, you go for it, young lady.
Thank you, Supervisor Finch. We have one other call-in. I'll call on Supervisor Konecki. Please go ahead, Supervisor Konecki.
I just have to add my 2 cents here. I've been working with Vicki for 9 years now. Just an outstanding. She was ready for anything, any question. Boy, she had the answer right there. So, Vicki, I thank you for your service and good luck in your retirement.
Thank you, Supervisor Konecki. Certainly well-deserved comments that you both are providing, and certainly a well-deserved retirement as well. So thank you both for those comments. Any other discussion? Seeing none, we'll do a voice vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say nay. That motion carries. We'll move on to the next item. That's the final item on the second page. That's resolution number 219-10-2021, awarding the sale of 4 million general obligation promissory notes. For that, I'll call on Supervisor Rasmussen.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move for Resolution 219-10-2021.
There's a motion and a second to
I'd like to-
approve resolution number 219-10-2021. Please go ahead, Supervisor
Okay,
Rasmussen.
I'd like to add that we had our P&F meeting right before this meeting. For that, it did pass 4-0, and we do have Justin Fisher here from Baird, and he could give a little explanation on this.
Absolutely, please. Welcome and thank you for coming. Please, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Well, good evening, everyone. Yeah, as Joel just mentioned, we had a P&F meeting to discuss this, and then really, in front of you, there's a packet that I'm going to go through real briefly here. So if you look at the page 2 of that presentation packet, the county went out for bid and received 6 bids from local and national banks around the country, with BMO Harris being the low bid at a 0.39%. So, great news to share for the county and the taxpayers and so forth. We projected a 0.71% going through the process. So, yeah, you can see that things came in better than projected, which only saves you money in the process. If you go to page 3, this is a summary of the financing. So this is a general obligation promissory notes in the amount of $4 million. It's going to close November 10th of 2021 and mature April 1 of 2022. So a shorter term financing. It is going to be non-callable, and we did not go through the bond rating process as we usually do, because of the short nature of the financing. It wasn't economical to go through that process and pay for the cost of issuance tied to that piece. With not having that rating, we still received, again, a 0.39% for the financing, and BMO Harris was the purchaser. What's nice is BMO has a branch in Oshkosh, which was nice to see that we were able to get some local support. They're a bigger shop, but they do have branches in the area, which was great. If you go to page 4 of the presentation, you can see there's a lot of numbers on this page. I won't go through it in a ton of detail, but what I do want to highlight here is that the strategic goal of this financing was really to manage the debt service levy. What you've seen in years past is we've been strategic about having about a 2 to 3 cent drop every year and managing how much the county borrows on an annual basis. Well, this year we decided let's reduce it more. We reduced it down 7 cents. So quite a big jump from prior years past. And the goal here is to maintain that drop, that 7 cent drop for 2022, and then keep it there every year thereafter. Now, we're projecting in this long-term plan of finance that say that the county continues to borrow for, on average, about $10 million per year. That may or may not happen. But what this plan does, it takes that into account and still is able to manage that debt service levy and keep that mill rate at the 55 cents per year thereafter. So a lot of thought kind of went into how to go about this and really avoid the drop and spike. And this is a nice plan that gives some nice tax relief, at the same point is strategic about it going forward into the future.
Thank you. Any questions for Mr. Fisher from anyone, or any comments? Okay, so there was a motion and a second to approve awarding the sale of 4 million general obligation promissory notes. We'll do a voice vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye. Any opposed, say nay. That motion carries. Thank you very much, Mr. Fisher, for being here and for your information and your assistance. Thank you again. So moving to the next item, so that's the top of the third page, and that's ordinance number 220-10-2021. Create section 8.06 of the Winnebago County General Code, Winnebago County Highway Commissioner. For that, I'll call on Supervisor Rasmussen.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move for ordinance number 220-10-2021.
There's a motion and a second to approve ordinance number 220-10-2021. Open it up for any discussion. I see one calling. I'll call on Supervisor Defferting. Please go ahead, Supervisor Defferting.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just had a question on this. And so if I interpret this correctly, under current statutes, the highway commissioner needed to be reappointed every 2 years. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct. That's how we should have been doing it.
Okay, so we weren't doing it before, correct?
Correct.
Was there any punitive measures on us because we didn't follow the rules?
Nope.
Okay, so,
This is just making sure that we can do business as usual, how we have, and follow the rules.
okay. I just, and, you know, and I get it, and I suppose I support that too, but it's just, I mean, if we're not following the rules and there's no punitive measures, then what's the point? That's all I have.
Thank you, Supervisor Deffery. Please, Vice Chair Egan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have a question too. I agree with Brian Differding over there. What brought this all about? I don't really understand, because we've been doing this for years, you say, and now all of a sudden we've got to do it. Who come up with this, or did you come up with this, or did corporate counsel come up with this, or who found the big mistake in Winnebago County?
Well, actually, that would be, my executive assistant noticed it because they had changed this in Washington County. Mike had done the same thing in Sheboygan County, and we brought it up with Mary Ann Miller, and it was just a housekeeping to make sure that we're in order.
Corporation Counsel, anything to add?
No, I just echo what County Executive Damos stated, that essentially per statute, we are trying to abide by the statute, so this is a housekeeping detail.
So, in other words, there's no penalty if you don't do it. What if we voted this down?
Well, you could, but then we expect the rest of our citizens to follow the rules, then we should follow the rules, and we would have to reappoint the highway commissioner every 2 years. I feel that he deserves to work under the same guidelines as any other department head out there. I guess, does that answer the question?
Yes, and I agree wholeheartedly, but does this put him underneath a contract that he will stay there for 2 years no matter what?
No, I think the cleanest way that we talked about it is that if we pass this, then we can reappoint the highway commissioner, and then it is smooth sailing from that point out. We're trying to figure out the cleanest way to make sure that we're abiding by the state statute.
Okay. So in other words, it was found by Washington County, more or less. That's what I'm getting. We didn't know nothing about it until Washington County come up with it.
Other counties have dealt with it before. Some of them. Now it goes back to the day when the highway commissioner used to be an elected official. There's a little history there.
Right.
So this is something in there to make sure that if people weren't happy with the highways, there was something they could do about the highway commissioner. But we have since changed that. So we're just doing things along the line. Mike, you got something you want to say? You were an administrator when you changed this in Sheboygan, correct?
Director Collard, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yes, and I guess my main point is that the statutes on this point are not crystal clear. And I don't want to say anything too definite because my memory isn't completely clear, but it is possible that the prior Corporation Counsel interpreted the statute that in such a way that since we have a county executive, there are some of the rules that are clearly different in the statute related to a highway commissioner. I believe the former Corporation Counsel interpreted the statute so that the 2-year term didn't apply in a county with a county executive. So it's not as black and white as you may think. It's not that clear. But on the other hand, we consulted with our current Corporation Counsel, who's of the opposite view. I don't at all disagree with that. It's the safer and better way to go to make sure we're in compliance, because if we change, the rule by adopting this ordinance, there will be no doubt that we're doing it correctly.
The point here is to take something that's gray and make it black and white.
Anything further, Vice Chair?
Just so it isn't too black and white, so it's fair for all. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Chair. I see one other call in. Supervisor Gabbard, please go ahead. Supervisor Gabbard.
So I read this and I knew this was coming, but it seemed we have one department head that's got some funkiness going on there with how he's appointed or reappointed. We don't do this with any of our other department heads, and I think he's a square equal to everyone else here. So I think it's just some house cleaning, and we always talk about following the rules and proper rule resolutions being written. So I don't think this is any intention to being anything bad. It's just clearing up something that was cloudy. So we have a great highway commissioner. We have great other department heads. This, to me, is just a way to clean things up. So I hope you guys all vote for this.
Thank you, Supervisor Gabbard. I don't see any other call-ins. So we did have a motion and a second to approve ordinance number 220-10, 2021. We'll do a voice vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed, say nay. That motion carries. Moving on to the next item, that's resolution number 221-10, 2021. Authorize the Winnebago County Sheriff's Department to enter into a 5-year contract with Word Systems Incorporated. I'll call on Supervisor Wingren.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move approval of this resolution.
There's a motion and a second to approve resolution number 221-10, 2021. We'll open it up for any discussion. Seeing none, we'll do a voice vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed, say nay. That motion carries. Moving on down to the next resolution, resolution number 222-10, 2021. Authorize a 5-year extension of the Inmate Telephone Services Agreement between Winnebago County and Inmate Calling Solutions, LLC. I'll once again call on Supervisor Wingren.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move that the full board consider this resolution 222-10, 2021.
There's a motion and a second to approve resolution number 222-10, 2021. We'll open it up for any discussion. I'll call on Supervisor Fari. Please go ahead, Supervisor Fari.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. If you'll note, the committee vote for Judiciary and Public Safety was 4-1. I would like to ask what the difference of opinion was on that committee.
Very good. Is there the individual who voted in opposition from Judiciary?
I introduced the resolution. I said I move the full board consider because I voted no. I feel that I've long felt that these rates are high. It's punishing people that don't need to be punished. That's my opinion. I've always had that opinion. And for instance, people are in jail that haven't been adjudicated yet. Yet they're forced to pay these, I think, exorbitant rates. And I know that the sheriff will disagree with me, but that's fine. I respect that. But that's why I voted no.
Mr. Chairman, could you repeat what he said in
Certainly.
summary to
So
clarify?
that was
I couldn't
Supervisor
hear all that.
Wingren who introduced it. He was the individual who voted against the Judiciary because of a concern of the rates and how high they are.
Oh, okay. So there is an increase in the rates in this contract.
There's actually a decrease, but I think Supervisor Wingren just overall was not in favor of charging the inmates as much as what we charge for the phone calls or taking revenue from the phone calls, I guess, be the best way to put it.
A philosophical issue.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Fari, and thank you for that clarification, Supervisor Wingren. Any other discussion? Supervisor Schellinger, please go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I am in agreement with Supervisor Wingren. I think I'm going to vote against this. Our typical budgets request about $250,000, $260,000 of revenue from this contract. I think the proposed budget that we'll consider in 2 weeks has some discrepancies between the lowered rates offered in this contract and the lowered number of folks incarcerated that we're projecting. But I'm not comfortable taking $265,000 from folks in our jail, and hope others will join me in voting no.
Thank you, Supervisor Schellinger. Any other discussion?
If I could, Mr. Chairman, may I make
Please,
a
go ahead,
comment?
Sheriff.
Okay, so we, just so you understand, we went from 21 cents a minute down to 16 cents a minute. Yes, it is a revenue source for us, but I will tell you that when we looked at what inmates were spending on the average for commissary, candy bars, et cetera, it's $270 a month when we were looking at what we would have to reduce it by. So, yes, I understand that there are individuals in jail that have not been found guilty yet, adjudicated guilty. I understand that, but this is also a way for us to control the amount of time that inmates are on the phone. If you're a family member, having someone constantly calling you, if they are free phone calls, becomes very difficult for family members. We have had to block numbers because of excessive phone calls. This is also moving towards video visitation. They will receive two 30-minute video visits a month free as part of this program. They'll also be able to do programming such as AODA through the iPads that they will be given. They will, again, be able to do video visits, and they'll get the 2 free, but they'll be able to do additional ones as they can.
Thank you, Sheriff. I see one other call in. Supervisor Powers, please go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you well.
Okay. I do appreciate everything that Sheriff Motz has said. When I call him about a concern, he calls me back and we discuss things. I understand all of these issues. I understand that they can't be free, that people would be, inmates would be on the phones all the time, that it's unlike, I mean, it's the same with every institution that incarcerates people, that they charge, and it's part of the revenue stream. I don't quite understand. It's a non sequitur to me to tell me what they spend in canteen, because that doesn't seem to be the same thing as needing a telephone. And you don't know that those spending money in canteen are also ones who are not being able to get on the telephone. They need to be able to talk to their family, their friends. They need to talk to their clergy. And being a clergy house, I know that we are charged when they call collect. It's not a free call when you call your clergy person. I did talk to Sheriff Motz about possibly coming up with some sort of a pilot program where he would try with some of the maybe good behavior type prisoners, and those people who have guardianship over minor children. If the prisoner could read a bedtime story, it would be recorded. The family at some other time could download it, and the kids could see mommy or daddy reading a bedtime story. I'd like to find ways that they can have more contact with their family rather than less. I don't see this as a good thing for the people who are incarcerated or their families. And I asked Sheriff Motz, I said, do you have anybody in your jail who you'd consider middle class or even wealthy? And he didn't. We're asking money from the poorest of the poor, the most disadvantaged. I'm not trying to give something for nothing to prisoners. I know that would never fly, but we need a better contract. I wanted to vote for it. I know it's a better one than we had the year before. It's not good enough. I'm going to vote against it. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Supervisor Powers.
Mr. Chairman, if I could, we looked at what it costs to have a landline at home. It's about 12 cents a minute based on calls that you make. Your cell phone's not free. Now, anything that we don't make on a revenue is then passed on to the taxpayer. So please keep that in mind. Not trying to charge the inmate exorbitant amounts on anything, whether it's phone or canteen. If they're indigent, if they do not have money, we provide phone calls to them. So we do make exceptions to charging for phone calls, depending upon being indigent. So just please keep in mind that losing the revenue would cost us on the tax levy.
Thank you, Sheriff. I see one other call in, Supervisor Rasmussen. Please go ahead, Supervisor Rasmussen.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Kind of what he just said there, I find it interesting that we had a presentation about paying more money to retain people and what that's going to cost us. And then a few minutes later, we talk about ways of cutting their source of revenue and making it being paid by the people who do respect the law. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Rasmussen. I see one other call in, Supervisor Schellinger. Did you have one more comment?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want everybody to, to realize that the sheriff is setting out a false dichotomy where either the taxpayers foot the bill or the county makes revenue. There is clearly an option in the middle where there is a revenue neutral option for the county where we provide the phone and other technology access that provides the type of support that Supervisor Powers was talking about while also not enriching the county on the backs of those folks. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Schellinger. Any other call-ins or comments? Oh, see one more. Supervisor Eisen. Please go ahead, Supervisor Eisen.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I call for a recorded vote, please.
Very good. Okay. We will do a recorded vote. And just so everyone is aware, this one does require a 2/3 of the membership vote. So 24, just so everyone is aware. So I'll ask the county clerk to call the roll. Vote aye if you want to approve of the contract. Vote nay if you do not.
Supervisor Knetsky? Aye. Supervisor Brunn?
Yes, aye.
Supervisor Borchert?
Aye.
Supervisor Eisen? Aye. Supervisor Chairman Ramos?
Aye.
Supervisor Defferding? Supervisor Nussbaum? Or, I'm sorry, Supervisor Lenz?
No.
Supervisor Nussbaum?
Aye.
Supervisor Stafford?
Aye.
Supervisor Albrecht? Supervisor Gabbard? Supervisor Binder? Supervisor Conrad?
Aye.
Supervisor Shorsey? Thumbs up?
Thumbs up.
Okay. Supervisor Gordon?
No.
Supervisor Wingren?
No.
Supervisor Lautenschlager?
Yes.
Supervisor Norton?
Yes.
Supervisor Zelmer?
Aye.
Supervisor Skellinger?
No.
Supervisor Buck?
No.
Supervisor Powers? Thumbs down. Okay. Supervisor Locke? Not on the call. Supervisor Cox?
Aye.
Supervisor Finch?
Aye.
Supervisor Youngquist? Is that an aye?
Yes.
Okay, all right, thank you. Supervisor Fari? Supervisor Rasmussen? Supervisor Keller? Supervisor Egan?
Aye.
Supervisor Ellis? Supervisor Snyder? Supervisor Jose? I got 23 to 9. Okay, you're probably more right than I am. Okay. All right, so 20, what did you, 24 to 8.
So that motion passes 24 to 8. It needed exactly 24 to pass 2/3 of the
Can
membership.
you double check that quick?
Oh.
Because I got a different number. Okay, who's your nose? Okay, Lenz. Okay. Gordon. Okay. Lindgren. Okay. Skellinger. Yep. Powers. Fari. Okay. That's all you had. Okay. Oh, yeah, because Rasmussen, Keller, Egan, Ellis. Okay. That's correct, 24 to 8.
24 to 8, so once again, that does pass because it required a 2/3 of the membership. So we'll move on to the next item then, and that is resolution number 223-10-2021. Authorize Winnebago County to enter into a 2-year contract with UniFirst for the purpose of mat and uniform rental and cleaning services. For that, I'll call on Supervisor Rasmussen.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move for Resolution 223, 10-2021.
There's a motion and a second to approve resolution number 223-10-2021. We'll open it up for any discussion. Seeing none, we'll do a voice vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. That motion carries. Moving on down to the next item, that's resolution number 224-10-2021. Approve the transfer of $21,470 from the Winnebago County Contingency Reserve Account and accept a $15,534 insurance settlement to go to the Winnebago County Facilities Department capital outlay account to replace a van substantially damaged in an accident. For that, I'll call on Supervisor Keller.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move for approval of Resolution 224-10-2021.
There's a motion and a second to approve resolution number 224-10-2021. We'll open it up for any discussion. I see one call in. I'll call on Supervisor Fari.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. A question for the director of the department. Then in reading this, I assume that we didn't have the vehicle properly insured, or is it a case that we did have the vehicle properly insured at full cost of replacement, and we're simply buying a more expensive vehicle?
Director Elder, please go ahead.
The vehicle was totaled, and the valuation that the insurance company put on the vehicle at the time of the accident was the settlement $15,534. We have not found a used vehicle of comparable condition to buy it. We have found a used van that basically is 1 year newer, and it's $32,500. So it's just like a personal vehicle. The vehicle's worth a lot more to you as a vehicle, but the insurance company, when it's totaled, says it's worth this.
Yeah, I would also add you're stuck with this accelerated appreciation that we're hearing about with used vehicles. So thank you for your explanation.
Thank you, Director Elder, and thank you, Supervisor Fari. So there was a motion and a second to approve resolution number 224-10-2021. We'll do a voice vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. That motion carries. Moving on to the next resolution. It's the last resolution on the third page. It's resolution number 225-10-2021. Approve a transfer of $11,437 from the Winnebago County Salary Contingency Reserve Account to the County Executive Office's labor account to cover vacation payout of wages and fringe benefits for a retired employee. For that, I'll call on Supervisor Rasmussen. If we could please open up the mic.
Thank you. I move for resolution number 225-10-2021.
There's a motion and a second to approve resolution number 225-10-2021. We'll open it up for any discussion. I see one calling. We'll call on Supervisor Schellinger. Please go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I was just curious what meeting Personnel and Finance considered this at. I was trying to look back at some of the agendas and didn't see this item, so I was hoping somebody could direct me to what meeting it was considered at.
Supervisor Rasmussen, could you answer that question?
This is a part of one of the resolutions that was on there. We approved part of it for the vacation payout, which had to be paid.
I'm sorry, what meeting, was that this month's meeting?
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Very good. Thank you, Supervisor Rasmussen, and thank you for the question, Supervisor Schellinger. Any other discussion? So we did have a motion and a second to approve resolution number 225-10-2021. We'll do a voice vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. That motion carries. Moving on down to the next item, that's the top of page 4. So it's 2 items to go. Resolution number 226-10-2021, amending the table of organization for the Winnebago County Public Health Department by adding 1 full-time WIC program nutritionist lead position. For that, I'll call on Supervisor Rasmussen.
Thank you. I move for resolution number 226-10-2021.
There's a motion and a second to approve resolution number 226-10-2021. We'll open it up for any discussion. Seeing none, we'll once again do a voice vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. That motion carries. Moving on to the final resolution for this evening. That's resolution number 227-10-2021. Authorize the Winnebago County Parks Department to accept a donation in the amount of $3,460 to purchase and install 2 memorial benches. For that, I'll call on Supervisor Konetsky. If we could please open the mic for Supervisor Konetsky.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move for the resolution number 227-102021.
There's a motion and a second to approve resolution number 227-10-2021. Any discussion? Seeing none, we'll once again do a voice vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. That motion carries. And that concludes our business for this evening. So before we wrap up, just as a reminder, so the next session would be our county budget session, Monday, November 1st at 6 p.m. That will be all virtual. We would be coming back to this venue for our November business meeting on November 16th, where we do a combined in-person and Zoom, just like we're doing this evening. And so before we depart, once again, I want to thank Lighthouse Productions, Clerk's Office, IT, Sheriff's Office for being here, Parks and Facilities for all their assistance with setup. Once again, and Oshkosh Media, absolutely, for recording. Thank you. Very much appreciated in regards to all those individuals and organizations. So with that, I will entertain a motion by Supervisor Albrecht to adjourn to November 1st. Supervisor Albrecht? There's a motion and a second to adjourn to November 1st at 6 p.m. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Very good. We are adjourned. Thank you, everyone. Have a safe evening.